One of the biggest prerequisites for a good photo is an interesting and clear subject. In street photography, you can have a person. In travel photography, it might be a scene. In landscape photography, it might be a particular mountain range. In almost every genre of photography, you need a subject. However, what if there isn't a subject? If you're shooting in a particular country where there are certain laws around street photography, for example, you might not be able to take photos of people. What do you do then? What if the subject is over-photographed? What if you're in Paris and you want to take a photo of Eiffel Tower, but millions, billions, trillions of these photos already exist? What if you just feel bored with your photography and you feel like you're always taking the same photo over and over again? And what if you just seem to be stuck in a bit of a creative rut? Well, this is where abstract photography might be the thing that you need in order to take your photography to the next level, or at least have fun and try something new. In short, abstract photography can remove context and create a photo solely based on the visual aspects. It could be reflections, could be shapes, patterns, colors. It could be a lot of different things. There aren't any specific guidelines what constitutes an abstract photo. In my opinion, it's when there isn't a clear specific subject or a story or something like that. Now, by all means, you can still have that. However, in most cases, the abstract photo is more about the visuals than it is about storytelling or showcasing a particular thing or location or person. Let's start with reflections. It's by far the easiest one out here. It's something that we see every single day, and you probably already take a bunch of reflection style photos. It's, as the name suggests, you look for reflections. It could be puddles, it could be windows, it could be reflective surfaces, anything really. It could even be a patch of light that's shining on some tiles on the floor, and you use that as a reflective surface to get a shadow or something like that. Reflections can add a whole other dimension to a photo, especially if you start flipping them or changing the perspective. And in my opinion, it's probably the easiest way to get going because you will encounter reflections everywhere you go. In the city, there's billions of them. Even out in nature, you can use water, you can use puddles. There's a bunch of things you can do. Let me show you a few examples that I've personally taken and talk you through my thought process for each photo. So we're starting with this first photo in Japan. This reflection was in a shop window. There was some kind of advertising. What drew my attention initially was the red and the blue, so strong opposing colors. And the red square portion of the reflection was also framing the subject, which was the guy standing behind me. He was scratching his head. There was a patch of light that was just hitting his white shirt, which is why it's so visible. And the whole scene just kind of unfolded. It's not crazy abstract because you still have enough context, but it's a good start. This next photo is from Shibuya, specifically the train station. As I was standing on the platform, and you could see the bollards of the platform, behind me was a blue screen, and there was just adverts, all that kind of stuff. And just to the side of me, there was a reflective surface. As I stood there, I could see people in the reflection, and I realized that if I time it with the blue screen when it comes on, you can get some nice silhouettes. Once you're finished with normal reflections, the next kind of step is to create some kind of a double exposure, but in one shot. So typically double exposures can be multiple photos stacked on top of each other, whether in camera or in editing. But in this example, I just want to use one photo and create a shot where there is some reflection, but there's also other parts or other aspects going on. And this can create almost two different photos like they've put into one, and again it makes the viewer ask more questions and try and study the image to figure out what exactly is going on. So this first photo was again in Tokyo. That was a very productive trip. So this was in Ginza as well. I was basically shooting down into this escalator. However, there was strong light and reflections coming behind me as well and reflecting from the window. Where I stood, it blocked that reflection and that light out, which is why you can see down into the escalator. However, where the light could hit the window, it would reflect what was going on behind me. and I waited for someone to walk behind me and also for someone to be on the escalator at the bottom. Therefore, this created like this double exposure type of image, which in my opinion is a pretty cool abstract shot. This next example is from Lisbon. You've got some nice visual patterns behind me, so a strong yellow color with the building, people walking there as well. And if you look through the glass into the actual building, there's strong contrast and there are people walking through. And what I was hoping would happen is someone would walk through in front of me inside the building at the same time as someone would walk behind me. And you can get both of these elements in one photo, which is pretty much what happened here. It's not exactly how I wanted it to pan out, but it's good enough. With reflections out the way, now let's look at some diffusion. I'm sure you know what that is. Effectively, it's something that's between you and the subject that can distort how everything looks. So it could be smoke, fog, a piece of tarpaulin, it could be a reflection in a particular way I'll show you, it could be a bunch of things. Let me show you some examples. This first photo is from Chinatown in London, and this is a very classic shot where you have a piece of plastic tarpaulin, some strong colors and a subject, which creates this look. Very easy to replicate, and it's probably the easiest way to get started with these types of photos. Staying in London, and this is one New Chain shopping center, if you go downstairs on a sunny day and you shoot up, you will get these weird kind of silhouettes of people's legs and feet and people walking above this glass thing. You kind of understand what's going on here, but at the same time you have to look around the image to try and figure that out. I really like taking these types of photos because in my opinion, they make for pretty interesting shots when you add them into like a bigger collection of images from a particular place. And finally, this one is from Tokyo. So this was a metal railing and I was shooting down into this kind of walkway. And what I figured out is if you place the lens right up against that metal railing and shoot wide open, it will create this kind of, I don't even know what to call it, almost like this kind of diffusion or this source of light or these like paint strokes coming down from the top. And in my opinion, it just adds to the image because you're trying to figure out what on earth is going on, if it's a Photoshop effect, if it's a double exposure or what. But no, it's all one image taken in Tokyo. So far, we've looked at what you can do using the elements out there, such as reflections and diffusion. However, now let's look at what you can do in camera using your shutter speed. So shutter speed, you can freeze objects, but you can also add motion blur or exaggerate that motion. If you shoot at 1/30th or slower, then whenever you get motion in your photo, you can create some pretty unique abstract style images with that motion. 1/30th of a second will still maintain the context of what's going on, but it will add motion to anything that's moving, especially if you're panning or there's fast moving subjects. If you drop down to maybe 1/8 of a second, something on those lines, the motion really exaggerates and then it kind of blends that line between context and just complete abstraction. So this first photo is from Portugal. It was from a beach. There were a bunch of people playing with a dog running up and down, and I wanted to capture that movement of them running up and down the beach. This is shutter speed 1/30th, around about there, and I panned with the guy as he was running up and down. After a few attempts, I got lucky, I must say, and I managed to freeze his leg, which must have obviously moved at particular speed, yet the rest of his body and the rest of the scene has motion blur, and it almost looks like he's levitating. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but pretty cool photo. This is probably one of my favorite slow shutter speed photos. This was taken in Marrakesh, in Fez. Basically, there were a bunch of kids running at full speed through these tight streets, and I wanted to capture that chaos that they were creating by running through. So I used a shutter speed of 1/8 of a second, and as they were running through, I would kind of pan with them. And what happened here is part of his body is, well, you could tell it's a kid or someone running through, but the rest of the scene is kind of all blurry and there's not much context. This is probably the most kind of suitable example of what I have of this type of abstract photo. And the final thing that you can also do is use negative space in order to create a very simple and minimal visual image. So this could be a sky, wall, a patch of color, it could be anything. Let me show you some examples. So this first shot is from London. It was a foggy winter day and I wanted to get the buildings right at the bottom, and there were a bunch of seagulls flying, and I figured how lucky would it be if one just flew straight through the scene, and it did, believe it or not. It took a while to get it, but I'm happy I stayed around. And this is a pretty nice abstract little photo, which in my opinion is probably one of my favorites that I've taken, because I just really like the simplicity of it. This example is from Paris, and I wanted to get a photo of the Eiffel Tower. However, it's photographed 10 million times. What can I do that's unique? I used my girlfriend's hair and I held it up, and then I kind of framed the Eiffel Tower through her hair, which somehow ended up working out. And the last example is from New York. There was a bright yellow van that was parked with people walking through it. It's a very classic silhouette type of photo. However, the strong patches of color and the negative space, the simplicity of this photo makes it work. I would say it's probably not particularly abstract because there's a lot of context here, but it's kind of nearly there. Well, I hope some of these examples gave you a few ideas of what to try when you go out to shoot. There are a few other things that you can play with: patterns, strong contrast, strong light, color as well. But in my experience, honestly, I found that the best abstract photos always have one or two of these elements. So you might have a reflection, but you also have some diffusion. You might have negative space, but you also have strong light and color. There's a bunch of things usually going on to create one good abstract photo. There aren't any rules or guidelines or what you should or shouldn't do. The best way to get abstract photos is to go out and experiment. It's the one genre, in my opinion, which is the most fun to experiment with, because there's no one to tell you what to do or how to do. This video has just given you a few ideas, but hopefully you can just build on these ideas, play around and see what you can get. I'd like to take a moment and thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. I've been using Squarespace for over 5 years as my online photography portfolio, where I share my best work from all the trips and shoots. Having an online portfolio is important because it's your little corner of the internet that you can arrange however you like. I would also encourage everyone to start an online blog about their photography. Having a blog is the best way for your website to stay relevant on Google because there's fresh content always being uploaded. Not to mention, it's a great way for your website to become more searchable through SEO. Squarespace offers powerful blogging tools that will allow you to publish blogs from anywhere on any device. Squarespace also offers powerful analytics that help you understand where your readers are coming from and what they're searching for. If you're an aspiring photographer, having your own website is important because it will elevate you from everyone else. For a free trial followed by 10% off your first purchase, please use the link in the description or use code RomanFox when you check out. Thank you for Squarespace for sponsoring, and thank you for watching. Well, hello from London. It's about 2 hours later. I've changed shirts, got a camera, and now I'm gonna walk around and show you some real world examples. I'll be shooting on the Sony and the 35mm f2, so I'll be either 35mm or I'll go into the APS-C mode and shoot at 50. Maybe with a bit of cropping, it just depends on the scene. Now we're in Liverpool Street, heading towards the city, and we'll start there. Hopefully the sun stays out as well. It's really nice. All right, let's start with a double exposure example where basically there are two different things happening in the same scene. So here you've got my shadow right here, as you could see, right there. And then you've got a spot of light there where I'm gonna try and get a silhouette. The idea is I've got me in the corner and the silhouette of someone walking through over there at the bottom. Hopefully this all lines up. I'll have to stop recording in order to get a clean shadow of myself. And I'll wait, because it's Sunday at the moment. There's not much traffic here because no one's at work and this is a city area. So it might take me a while and hopefully I can get something. All right, let's start with the first example. And here there are a few things going on. So first of all, you have a reflection going on in this tiled wall right here. You've got a nice source of light as well, and there's people walking through. So I want to utilize motion and reflection in this particular shot, because if I do just the reflection, it's okay, but it's not, it could be better. So if I use motion as well, I'll shoot at 1/30th of a second. And then as you could see, as people will walk through, I will just capture that motion and go with them like that. I'm also liking this scene because the reflection doesn't go all the way. So as you can see, the reflection only goes about halfway on the left-hand side. All right, now we're in Bank, and this is the entrance, or one of them, to Bank Tube Station. This particular spot, I must admit, I'm cheating because I know this location. I've got a photo here already. And basically you've got light flooding in from that corner. And if you shoot this way, you can just get a sliver of that light and hopefully someone walking in. Anyway, here's a photo that I took probably 2-3 years ago from here, just to give you an idea of what this would look like. All right, now we're in one new change, and right in front of me is where the lift goes up and down to get to the top. There's one going over there. Now, as it goes up and down, obviously there's people inside. So what I'm trying to do is use a slow shutter speed. For now, I'm going to use 1/30th and try and get a nice kind of motion blur, abstract-y type photo with the people going up and down the lift. So here's a spot in one new change where I took a photo before. So right there, you might not be able to see it on this camera, but you've got a bit of St. Paul's Cathedral and you've got the escalator. So what I did is I waited for someone to walk down the escalator, and then I used the slow shutter speed to just flick the camera up as they walk down in order to get a silhouette of them with a bit of a hint of St. Paul's Cathedral, but also with motion blur and generally a very unusual look that I have not seen in this particular shopping centre. This is another classic spot. You've got a bit of light coming through, loads of shapes, reflections, and just if you focus on the light like that, and you can get some abstract bits and bobs going on over there. Again, nothing particularly exciting or interesting, but you can get some cool photos. Well, hello again. You joined me a little bit later in the day. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really feeling the photos I was getting. I felt like I wasn't really seeing anything. And I was about to just delete all of this and start again another day. However, I decided the most kind of transparent thing to do is to just show you what it's like on a given day, because you've seen the select photos, the ones that I'm happy with, and now you get to see the ones which are so. I got changed, I'm going to the gym. However, I'm going to take a very long 2-hour walk to the gym and see if I can get a few more shots. I think I've got one which is half okay, but we'll see. So now I'm no longer treating it as I need to get the best shots to show you. You know already what I'm trying to do. Instead, it's just showing you the reality of trying to get these abstract-ish types of photos. So I'm back in one new change. Obviously the light's very different now. It's about 6-7 hours later, and I'm gonna see if I can get a few more shots. I didn't come here on purpose, I just walking past here. Why not? So right now, as you could probably tell, if I move back, where was it? It was like here. Jesus, okay. The sun's really in my eyes, and this might create a really nice shot. So if I spin the camera around, there'll be kind of something on those lines, and try and create something maybe like this. The problem I've got now is it's so late in the day, it's a Sunday, there's not many people here. So I could potentially be waiting for a very long time, which I don't know if I want to do at the moment. So I'll probably give it a few minutes, see if something materializes. If not, I'll just show you the photo that I got here last time, which was kind of at this angle, like that. Nice little abstract shot. This might work actually, so this will be a landscape shot, crop it into 50mm, focus on that, and then just need someone to walk through that gap. There's a photo of it without anyone there. And now, just need one person, come on, someone to walk through. I stood there for what felt like 10 years. There's just not many people at this time of day. I managed to get 2 people in that gap. Ideally, I wanted 1 person, but it's enough to give you an idea of what I was trying to go for. However, the moment I left, I'm talking about the moment I walked up them stairs and left, a woman in a bright red dress walked straight into the spot where I wanted her to be, or someone to be. It's just typical, happens all the time, but gotta laugh about it. And I've said this before in many videos, but this is just photography, and even though it's frustrating, and I feel a bit frustrated myself right now because I've been here the whole day and I don't think I've got anything to show for it. But that's just how it is. Some days you will work really hard and just get nowhere, and other days it seems that you can't put a foot wrong. Everywhere you point your camera, you get an amazing photo. It's just what it is. I'm actually saying this more to remind myself than to remind you, because it is a bit frustrating, but it's part of photography. Well, it's coming to the end of the day and my brain is shutting down. I hope this was somewhat useful to you. I'm pretty sure the first half of this video was more helpful than this, but even if these rubbish examples were helpful, then please let me know. If I see anything else, I'll put it at the end of the video. But other than that, I'm probably gonna go to the gym and then get an early night because my brain's frazzled. That's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks again, and speak to you soon. Bye for now.
Yeah, no, that's... Sorry, bro.
Sorry, man, what?
Yeah, no.
You know, when you get the perfect subject and everything lines up, you go to take the shot and they stop for you because they think they're going to get in your way. I mean, it's extremely nice of them. But it's like, oh, please don't be so polite. Just walk through. In the end, I didn't take the shot because it's just, yeah. But it's funny when it happens.